This is an NBC News special report.
Good day from NBC News headquarters in New York. The Associated Press is reporting at this hour that former President Ronald Reagan has died. Death apparently came moments ago at his California home, surrounded by family, most of whom flew in the overnight hours, after the former president's health went into a steep decline over just the past several days. Ronald Reagan was the oldest former president in American history. He was 93 years old when he died today. He has been out of the public eye for most of the past decade since announcing to the whole world he had Alzheimer's. His last public appearance was a visit to his California office back in 1997. As you're seeing on the screen, however, most people prefer to remember the robust and optimistic Republican president at the very height of his power. He gave birth to and will always be remembered for the Reagan Revolution, ushering in an era of conservative policies that remain in effect to this day. We are joined by telephone by NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell, among our correspondents who spent a lot of time with the former president, the former two-term Republican president. Andrea, your thoughts at this hour? Apparently, we are unable to make the connection with Andrea Mitchell by telephone. NBC News White House correspondent Rosalind Jordan standing by at the White House for us, where we do know the Reagan family had notified the current and all former presidents of President Reagan's rapidly deteriorating health. Roz?
That is the case, Brian. We were informed through David Gregory, who is traveling with the president's pool today in France, that according to a source within the administration, the White House had been notified that in the past week, President Reagan's condition had significantly deteriorated. Of course, this was rather significant that anyone from the White House would even make note of this, because there have been rumors circulating here in Washington for weeks now about the condition of President Ronald Reagan. Now, the official went on to say that while there had not been any direct contact with the family, there was this concern, and they felt that they wanted the press pool to know that. Brian?
Roz Jordan at the White House. The president will be remembered for so many things, and over the next several days, beginning this evening as the news hits home and more Americans become aware of the fact that Ronald Reagan, again, according to the Associated Press and several other broadcast sources at this hour, has died at the age of 93. Not only a popular two-term president, but he will always be credited with helping greatly to tear down the Berlin Wall and putting an end to both communism and the Cold War, which bedeviled him so during his years in public life. So much of the drama has been centered in and around the Reagans' longtime home in Southern California on St. Cloud Road in the Bel Air section of Los Angeles. Correspondent Mark Mullen standing by out there, where he has been for hours watching the comings and goings. Mark?
Brian, good day to you. It has been interesting because actually, sort of behind the scenes, there have been all kinds of rumors about the failing health of the president for several weeks now. And every time one of these fire drills started to happen, the spokesperson for Ronald Reagan would be inundated by phone calls and say, we simply don't have anything to report. Something started happening a bit differently, though, 2 or 3 days ago. First of all, word started leaking out. Family, friends started tipping off press people. The Reagans themselves have a lot of friends and acquaintances within the press world as well. The spokesperson for Ronald Reagan has received some 300 different phone calls just in the last 2 days. We knew something was up. Everyone began monitoring the situation. We were here starting last night, and what we saw was basically for all of the different friends that the Reagans have made over the years throughout California, the United States, and throughout the world, the gathering over the last couple of days has been relatively small. It has been confined, for the most part, to family members. We saw Michael Reagan, who, of course, is one of the children from Ronald Reagan's first marriage, coming here with 2 granddaughters last night. Earlier this morning, probably about 7:15 local time here in the Los Angeles area, we saw Ron Reagan come in along with his sister Patty, and we also believe, who was the family physician, come in as well. None of those people we saw leave throughout the entire day. We saw maybe a couple of staff members leave, but essentially that has been it. In many ways, the Reagans themselves have been preparing the public for this eventuality going back as far as 10 years ago. That is the time when Ronald Reagan released that poignant and very sad to many letter disclosing that he indeed did have Alzheimer's, and basically said language in that letter to the point that right then and there, 10 years ago, he was prepared to enter what he described as the sunset of his life. What has happened between now and then? For the most part, the public doesn't know. Since that time, Ronald Reagan has been kept out of sight, for the most part electing not to be seen in public. It's been sort of an alternative good news, bad news situation. Sometimes we heard optimistic news coming from this family compound. We were shown some photographs, we all may remember, of Ronald Reagan and Nancy celebrating one of his birthdays. It was simply a photograph, but other times we started to hear bad news, including that which led up to the event today. Brian.
Mark Mullen in the Bel Air section of Los Angeles, thanks. And just in the last few moments, the White House, the Bush White House, has commented on the passing of the former president. For that, we go to my colleague, NBC News White House correspondent David Gregory, traveling with President Bush today in Paris. David, are you with us?
I am, Brian, and I can tell you within the past few moments that a senior White House official has confirmed to NBC News that former President Reagan has died. The president has already been informed. He was informed some time ago, I don't know the exact timing of it, by his chief of staff, Andrew Card. But again, confirmation from the White House, the traveling White House here in Paris, where tonight the president dined with French President Chirac, that former President Reagan has died and that President Bush has been informed. This has been something that was expected by the White House. Earlier today, sources familiar with the situation informed the White House that the end was near for former President Reagan, that his health had taken a turn for the worse. The White House was put on notice that it could come at any time, and don't be surprised if the announcement was made soon. And indeed, I think it was sooner than most people expected. Brian, one official said it could be any time, weeks or months, who knows. And indeed, it happened in a matter of hours, even from that conversation. All of this happening while the president is in France, preparing to mark the D-Day anniversary, the 60th anniversary on Normandy yesterday. Now, of course, there may be some change of plans, but no official word on that. Brian.
Thank you, David Gregory in Paris. This sets in motion, of course, the elaborate funeral plans that all former presidents must have and agree to, of course, while they are alive. The President of the United States, George W. Bush, will, of course, preside over that upon his return to the United States. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has now been able to join us by phone, I understand. And, Andrea, your thoughts at this hour?
Well, some of the thoughts are just personal, because I spent 8 years covering Ronald Reagan, and any of us who covered him feel very connected to him. It was an extraordinary time historically, and he, no matter what you thought politically, was just such a nice man that he was very much liked by everyone around him, his Secret Service agents, anyone with whom he had contact. And it is the end of an era, and he had a transforming, power over our politics, over economics. It was, of course, the end of the Cold War, and I guess the most profound moment in his presidency, not just tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev, at the Berlin Wall, but in fact in 1984 at Pointe du Hoc at Normandy, when he delivered that most meaningful speech about where are the boys of Pointe du Hoc, the speech that was written by Peggy Noonan, but delivered by Ronald Reagan, and it was really the coming together of the Allies, the first great coming together of the Allies, which now is again going to be commemorated tonight and tomorrow.
And Andrea, that begins the flood of memories that'll be coming back from this great American life as an actor, a broadcaster, a corporate pitchman, a governor so often underestimated, say nothing, of course, of 2 terms as president. We will have updates throughout the evening, of course, and we should tell you about a special edition of Dateline NBC at 10 o'clock Eastern Time for an hour this evening. For now, I'm Brian Williams, NBC News, New York.